Joining me now is somebody who's been in the room for a lot of these depositions, including today. It's New York Democratic Congressman Greg Meeks. He's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which is one of the three committees currently responsible for this inquiry. Congressman Meeks, thanks for coming in. We were talking about the deposition of Mr. Morrison. We've seen the reports. We've seen he confirmed largely Mr. Taylor's accounts there. What more can you tell us about Mr. Morrison? Has he been a cooperative witness?
Well, yeah, I think that what you said is basically what I can categorize is that he has been a cooperating witness. You know, we're trying to see, and this is a drive for the truth, and he has basically corroborated what Ambassador Taylor has indicated, just as it seems as though, you know, there was a question initially about the whistleblower and what he said. But most of the witnesses, or just about all, have come in and been and have corroborated what the whistleblower said, what Ambassador Taylor has said, and to some degree what Mr. McVeeny actually said and what the president has said, too. So there seems to be cooperation throughout from what we hear. And that's why I think it's good to be where we are now. And at some point, to let the public hear.
Well, what is the some point, and when do you think you've had enough evidence to start presenting what you have found to the public?
Well, I think that that's what the vote was about today, setting what those rules are, and soon there will be public hearings. I heard, you know, part of your conversation. You know, I think that when you are a prosecutor and you're going to the grand jury proceeding, you don't rush something through. You do try to make sure you get all of the evidence and you understand all of the potential counts that might be in a indictment. So you don't want to go in and say, oh, I've got this, and you indict, and then you find out evidence later on, and then you got to go back and redo the process. You want to be as inclusive as you can. And that's what we're doing. You know, this is a very, and I know it's political, but it's a very deliberative process, and it's something that, and I think Nancy Pelosi was right, that no member of Congress wanted to do or thought that they would have to do when they were elected. So we're trying to dot I's and cross T's here and then present it to the American people and take the facts that we found from this proceeding to the judiciary so that we can see what, if any, articles of impeachment should be brought.
Right, but we can't pretend that 2020 is not around the corner. At what point, where are you on that question, right? Which is, at what point does it start to get too close to the election where this becomes a harder thing to explain to the American public?
Well, look, I don't think even now what we're trying to do and what I think is clear, how the president abused his power, how the president threatened and hurt the national security of the United States of America by withholding the money to an ally, that becomes clear, and how the president was trying to get a foreign government involved in our politics. That has come out of the president's mouth. Now you've got to corroborate it because you've got to prove it. We're still, you know, trying to know that the Senate is a jury. And I know some say that it's going to be difficult to get 20 senators. I'm reminded of, you know, it was a late breaking thing with Richard Nixon, where everybody was somewhere, but once all of the evidence had gotten out, had they tried to impeach Richard Nixon or talked about it, you know, when initially they were doing the investigatory stages, nobody was there. But once the evidence was done and when you complete, so we'll see. I think it'll be done in a timely fashion, but in an appropriate fashion and in a deliberate fashion.
Well, speaking of timing, we just learned a few minutes ago that a hearing is not going to be scheduled until December 10th to find out if Mr. Kupperman, who has asked the courts to decide whether he can legally appear before you, you know, what does he fall under? The congressional subpoena, executive privilege, things like that. This will impact John Bolton's potential testimony. December 10th is a long way away. That's more than a month away. How much does a delay in getting to Kupperman, getting to Bolton, how much does that delay the larger process here?
Well, I mean, these are substantial witnesses, and that is something that actually is out of our control in the sense that the courts want to rule. Look, we want as many people to come in to testify, whether they're part of the administration or not. I think that from the witnesses that I saw, I want the public to be able to judge the veracity of the people that have testified. I've heard some of my colleagues on the other side go after them. I want them to see the public servants that have come before us, and they can make that judgment for themselves. The president has said that he wants to be able to call his own witnesses. He seems to be the only one hiding behind executive privileges that want to prevent witnesses from testifying. So it seems to me you can't have it both ways. We are ready to hear them if they would come forward right now. If the president would stop trying to get them to hide behind executive privilege, we can do it in a much more timely fashion. So that question, I think, would be more appropriately asked to the president. Why doesn't he let the people come testify?
Okay. Final question is this. Obviously, you know, your Republicans on the other side of the aisle, they're hitting you on the process of this, how this is being conducted. Are you sensitive to the fact that you can't let these hearings become a spectacle? And, you know, you may have folks on the other side who are trying to bait many members of Congress to make this a spectacle. How do you prevent that?
I think that Speaker Pelosi, and I think that what we've been doing, at least in the hearings that we've had thus far, Adam Schiff, Chairman Schiff, has been very, very professional about it. And I would hope that our Republican colleagues would do the same and not play the kind of antics that they've done downstairs. And the American public then would be able to see the antics that they did. When I hear such comments that, you know, Republicans don't get a chance to ask questions and things of that nature, they do. And the public will get a chance to see that. So we will do what's on our part. I mean, we understand that the camera of history is rolling and we are being recorded on it. And we're going to be very thoughtful about how we conduct and continue to move forward in regards to this impeachment inquiry.
I like that phrase. The camera of history is rolling. Should be a catchphrase for those of us in television news. Congressman Greg Meeks, Democrat from New York, thank you for coming on and sharing your views. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.